This past summer, one of my mentors in ministry passed away after a long illness and an even longer life. Reverend Frank Carpenter was my minister during the numerous years that I was an active lay leader at St. John's Unitarian Universalist Church up in Cincinnati. Frank and I worked together closely on so many Sunday services, discussion classes, pride parades, prayer vigils, and interfaith activities. I vividly remember one evening sitting in his office and telling him that I was thinking about going into seminary to become a minister. Frank's response was simply, "It is about time you figured that out, Bruce. I have been waiting to hear this." Last month, I drove up to Ohio to attend Frank's memorial service. During the reception afterwards, I was talking with some other ministers about what we loved and what we remembered most about him. I shared with the group one of the pieces of sage wisdom that Frank gave me one day that I still carry with me decades later. Frank told me that in his mind, as ministers, as religious communities, we have to give each other hope. He said no matter what the sermon topic might be, no matter what else was happening on any given Sunday morning, there was probably someone in the congregation who had arrived at church that day feeling overwhelmed at the end of their rope. He told me that a good Sunday service always has to include some space for that person, some moment to honor and acknowledge our heartache, loss, and despair. He told me that a good Sunday service is one that leaves people walking out of the sanctuary feeling just at least a little bit more hopeful than they did walking in. Now, I don't know if I always live up to that expectation, and I leave that up to you to decide for yourself. But that perspective has shaped, and it continues to shape, the way that I understand the purpose of religious community. Here at All Peoples, we are not a university. While we try to expose people to new ideas and thought-provoking concepts, we are not simply an academic institution that is in the business of imparting knowledge. We are also not a social service agency. While we strive to offer one another support and help in times of trouble, we are not a hospital, a psychology office, or a food pantry. Our congregation is not a political party or a partisan advocacy group. We do not tell you who to vote for or campaign for candidates for public office. Now, while our Unitarian Universalist values call us to actively engage in the work of creating justice and liberation, and that may often include lobbying and letter writing and protesting, we partake in these activities not to defeat those bad people. We partake in them because love is the center of our faith. We partake in them to foster a fairer, better society for everyone. I believe that while education, support, and justice are vital aspects within the life of this congregation, they are not the real purpose for this church's existence. I think that we are here to give you hope, to give one another hope, to spread hope all across Louisville and beyond. Last week we celebrated Halloween, and last Sunday we spent some time exploring our fears. And to be sure, there is a lot to be afraid of. We all have personal fears, like receiving an unexpected health diagnosis, having a car accident, suffering a fall that leaves us debilitated, getting a medical bill or a utility bill that we cannot afford, being the victim of violence or discrimination because of our perceived racial, cultural, or gender identity. We all also have communal fears, like the threats posed by our ever-worsening climate crisis, the effects on us all of escalating income inequality, the deep social divisions in our nation, which are leading too many people to adopt radical, xenophobic ideologies. If we need something to be afraid of, we don't need witches, we don't need ghosts, because we have Project 2025. I mean, that is an ominous document. It proposes remaking our country into an intolerant, extremist, evangelical Christian theocracy. And it proposes hurting and harming a lot of people in the process. And that is scary. With Election Day now just hours away, and as tomorrow comes and with it life's unexpected challenges, whatever they may be as well, many of us, I think, are feeling anxious and fearful. I mean, I am, and I bet you might be too. Naming and claiming those feelings is important, and having the space to honor them here in this beloved community is essential. Yet, dwelling in them exclusively is not going to make the coming week any easier. So this morning, let's just take a moment to acknowledge our fears and to know that none of us is alone in the dread and the trepidation we might be holding in our hearts. I invite you to just take a deep breath in and out and say with me, I'm afraid. And then finish that sentence, I'm afraid of, and finish that sentence for yourself just silently in your mind. You ready? I'm afraid of. And now, take a moment to consider, what is it that brings you hope? What do you feel that you might rely on to get through these times of uncertainty and insecurity? Say with me, I have hope in. And then finish the sentence quietly for yourself. I have hope in. Now, I got to tell you, whenever I talk about hope, I always feel this need to articulate the difference between hope and optimism. I mean, I may want to be optimistic that Amendment 2 is going to be defeated here in Kentucky. I might want to be optimistic that those test results are going to come back negative. Or be optimistic that my horse is going to win the race at Churchill Downs. But that is not the same as being hopeful. Optimism is based on facts that lead me to the logical conclusion that the odds just might be in my favor. But with so many important things in life, I don't know about you, but I find I am not in control, and I cannot predict an outcome. So simply being optimistic doesn't really help that much. Hope comes out of our belief that regardless of what happens, we will somehow endure. Hope is grounded not in specific circumstances or outcomes, but in whatever it is that we feel we can count on, no matter what transpires. A very wise elder member of our congregation named Bob Schultz, who's sitting right back there. Bob sent me an email several weeks ago in which he shared a quote from H.L. Mencken, the noted New York Times reporter from the 1920s. Mencken said this: "Faith is belief in what we do not know, while belief is faith in what we do know." I'm going to say that again because I had to read it a couple of times. Faith is belief in what we do not know, while belief is faith in what we do know. Now, if this is true, then hope is more like belief than it is faith. But whatever we want to call it, today I'm here to tell you, I do know some things. I know this. No matter how things go at the polls this week, no matter who wins or loses, or how much chaos and upheaval ensues in trying to figure that out, we will still be here. We will still be here for each other. We will still be here trying our best to live our values, sometimes succeeding, sometimes failing. We will still be here, singing and laughing, crying and protesting and learning together in community. No matter what fearful things may come, no matter what blessings may happen, no matter what delights or frights or defeats may wait us in our future, the love and the care of this community, of your all people's community, will still be here for you, no matter what. Now, I don't just hope that. I know it. And I hope that you know it too. There's a lot of focus on this election this week. This is important. It matters. But there's also a lot of other things happening in all of our lives as well. Please know that we are here for you, not just this Tuesday or the day after, but every day of the week. And I encourage you to come out on Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. Our Justice Center Director, Russ Funk, and I are going to be hosting a little gathering right here in our sanctuary, and it's also going to be happening on Zoom, so you can Zoom in and be part of it. Wednesday night at 6 o'clock, it's just going to be a chance to just check in, just share your feelings, connect with others, give each other just a little bit more hope to get through the week. We hope you can join us then.